So we are going to start by taking a look at working capital ratios. Now, there has been always one of these ratios coming up in your part A where you have to answer 5 ratios calculations, okay? So there's always been one, and it can be up to 12 marks out of your 100 marks, so it's really worth the time getting comfortable with these and learn them off. You will realise how nice and easy they are once you practice them, but they're always needing to be, practiced frequently so that you don't forget how to do them. So here we go. Here, what are working capital ratios? They measure the activity of the main components of working capital: stock, debtors and creditors. So we have 3 here. We have stock turnover, we have average period of credit allowed, and we have average period of credit received. Now, they help us work out opening and closing stock, that's the stock turnover. They help us work out cash sales by using this one here, and they help us work out cash purchases. So the questions that we have seen in the past are in that blue right in there. What is the opening or closing stock if the rate of stock turnover is whatever? What are the cash sales if the period of credit allowed debtors is however many months? And how much are your cash purchases if the average period of credit received from creditors is however many months? So that's the questions that these will answer. So the formulas for the rate of stock turnover is cost of sales over average stock. And average stock is just your opening stock and your closing stock divided by 2. Your average period of credit allowed is your trade debtors by 12 months divided by credit sales. And your average period of credit received is trade creditors by 12 months divided by credit purchases. So they are our 3. Okay, so we'll start using them now. So stock turnover, it has come up 2020, 2017, 15, 13, 11, 8 and 5. So that's to find out your opening or your closing stock. So I'm going to do the first 4 for you guys, and then I think it'll be a good test to see how you get on at 2011, 2008, 2005. Right, so 2020 question. So Robinson PLC, so stock turnover. So what is the opening stock if the rate of stock turnover is 8 based on average stock? Okay, so the formula is cost of sales over average stock, okay, and the answer is 8 based on average stock. So what we have to do here, we don't know what our average stock is because we don't know what our opening stock is, but we do know what our closing stock is. It's down here. So closing stock can be here in the balance sheet or it could be up here in the trading account. We just need to look for it. So the cost of sales is 536,000, okay, and the average stock is, we don't know what that is, but the closing stock is 75, but that is equal to 8. Okay, so the 536 came from up here. All right, now how will we work this out? Well, what we'll do is we will multiply, okay, both sides by average stock. So if I multiply this side by average stock, I just get 536, and if I multiply this side by average stock, I multiply 8 by average stock. Then what I will do is I will divide both sides by 8 to just get my average stock on its own. So 536,000 divided by 8 is 67, and then 8 multiplied by average stock divided by 8 is just my average stock. So my average stock is 67. So my total stock then would be my average stock multiplied by 2. So that is 134,000 is my total stock. Then what I want to do is I want to take away my closing stock, 75,000, and that will tell me that my closing stock, my opening stock, that should say opening stock there, my opening stock is 59,000 euro. Okay, so that should say opening stock there, 59,000 euro. Right, so that's 2020. 2017 then, the question is, what is the closing stock if the rate of stock turnover is 10 based on average stock? Okay, so formula again, cost of sales over average stock. So my cost of sales is here, 565, okay, now that's equal to 10, so 565 over my average stock. I don't know what my average stock is because I don't know what my closing stock is, but my opening stock is 73. So 565 over my average stock is equal to 10. Right, so what I'm going to do to get rid of this fraction here is I'll multiply both sides by average stock. So if I multiply this side by average stock, I just get 565. If I multiply this side by average stock, I have 10 multiplied by average stock. I want to isolate the average stock, get it by itself, so I will divide both sides by 10. So I'll have 56,500 is my average stock. Then to get my total stock, I will multiply 56,500 by 2, so I get 113,000, that is my total stock. And then I will take away my opening stock of 73 to get my closing stock. So my closing stock there is 40,000 euro is my closing stock. That is my answer. So that is 2017. 2015, the question said, what's the opening stock if the rate of stock turnover is 12 based on average stock? So again, the formula, cost of sales over average stock. So my cost of sales there is 720, okay, but the answer there is 12. So 720 divided by average stock is equal to 12, okay. I want to get rid of the average stock here underneath, so I'll multiply both sides by average stock, and that'll give me 720,000 is equal to 12 times average stock. Then I want to just get average stock by itself, so I will divide both sides by 12. So if I divide 720 by 12, I get 60,000. I divide 12 times average stock by 12, I just get average stock. So my average stock is 60,000. So my total stock then is 120,000. So then what I'll do, I need to take away this closing stock here. So 120 minus my closing stock 51,500 is equal to an opening stock, which is what I'm looking for here, 68,500 euro opening stock. And that is my answer for 2015. Okay, so I think we'll start getting you to do some of it there yourself. So if you can just copy the thing, I'll just go through it without speaking, and you can pause and play the video as you need. Okay, so that was all the opening and closing stocks. We used the rate of stock turnover formula for that. Right, now, if we are asked then to work out cash sales, so this is lovely and easy, we're going to use the formula average period of credit allowed. So this is to help us work out cash sales. Right, so this formula here is going to tell us what our credit sales are. And if we know what our credit sales are, we can very easily find out what our cash sales are, because we will take from our total sales, we will take credit sales, and then the rest will be cash sales. So the formula for credit sales is debtors by 12 months of the year divided by the amount of time that you allow your debtors credit in months, and that will tell us our credit sales. Okay, so we 5 here, so I'm going to do 3 with you, and then you'll do 2009, 2006 yourself. Okay, so 2021. So what are the cash sales if the period of credit given to debtors is 3 months? So my debtors multiplied by 12 divided by the month's credit allowed is equal to my credit sales. So my debtors are 174,000 euro here. Okay, multiply that by 12 and divide it by 3 from the question. So that tells me that my credit sales are 696,000 euro. Now, to find my cash sales then, I simply look at my total sales figure here, 908, and I subtract 696, and that gives me 212,000 cash sales. Now, 2019 then. What are the cash sales if the period of credit given to debtors is 1.5 months? Okay, so again, the formula is debtors by 12 months divided by the month's credit allowed. And that tells me my credit sales. So my debtors are 78,000 multiplied by 12 months and divided by 1.5. Okay, that'll tell me that my credit sales are €624,000 credit sales. So what I will do then, I will look at all of my sales. So my total sales there, €960,000. I will subtract the 624 credit sales, and that tells me that I have cash sales of €336,000 cash sales. Right, 2014. So what are the cash sales if the period of credit given to debtors is 2 months? So again, to find credit sales, we'll have debtors by 12 divided by the month's credit allowed. And you see here the month's credit allowed in this question is 2 months. So my debtors are 43,000. Multiply that by 12 and divide by 2 is 258,000 credit sales. I go up here to my trading profit and loss, and I see that my total sales is €950,000. So €950,000 total sales minus my 258 credit sales is equal to cash sales of €692,000. Okay, so the last question that we're going to look at with regards to our working capital ratios is what is your cash purchases if the period of credit received from creditors is however many months. So we're going to look at 4 together, and then you can do 2007, 2004 yourself. Okay, so the formula here is very similar to the last one, as you'll guess. Trade creditors by 12 months divided by the time that you have received, time credit you have received in months. Okay, so if we know our credit purchases from using this formula, you will be able to work out your cash purchases very easily. Now this one is more complicated than the cash sales, but you get a couple more marks for it in the exam. Right, 2018 Born to Run PLC. So what are the cash purchases if the period of credit received from trade creditors is 2.5 months? Okay, so my formula is creditors by 12 months divided by the month's credit allowed, and that is equal to my credit purchases. Okay, so my creditors figure down here is 80, and my month's credit allowed is 2.5, and I'll multiply that by 12, and I'll get 384,000 credit purchases. Okay, so I need to find my cash purchases. So my purchases is usually up here, but I'm not told here what my purchases are, right? But we need to figure it out based on these 3 figures. So I usually have opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock is equal to 560, like so. Okay, so for me to calculate my purchases, my 560, I will add my 90 and I will take away my 60, and I will get that my purchases are 590,000. So 60 plus 590 minus 90 is 560. So you always need to kind of work backwards down to see that you got that right. So your total purchases are 590,000 minus your credit purchases of 384 gives me cash purchases of €206,000. So you're usually getting 12 marks out of your 100 for that there. Okay, 2016. So they're asking what are your cash purchases if the period of credit received from trade creditors is 2 months. Okay, so again the formula is creditors by 12 months divided by the month's credit allowed, and that will tell me my credit purchases. So I'm going to have 90,000 divided by 2 multiplied by 12, and that will give me 540,000 credit purchases. Now what I need to do is I need to find my total purchases. So again, you'll see here that they haven't given us the total purchases. So we have opening stock plus purchases, which is X, we don't know what it is, minus closing stock 65 is equal to 572. So 55 plus X minus 65,000 is equal to 572. What is X? So from my 572, I will add my closing stock 65 and I will minus my opening stock 65. So it's just basic algebra. So we work that out to be 762,000. Now put that into your calculator again just to make sure that you're right. It'd be 55 plus 762 minus 65 is 562. So you do have to double check. Okay, so your total purchases are 762. Your credit purchases are 540. So therefore we should guess that our cash purchases, 762 minus 540, is 222 cash purchases. So that's 2016 done there. Next then, 2012, what are the cash purchases if the period of credit received from trade creditors is 2.5 months? Okay, so my formula again is creditors multiplied by 12 months divided by months credit allowed, which is 2.5, or months credit received from your creditors. So your creditors are down here, 98,000 euro, multiplied by 12 divided by your 2.5. And that tells me that my credit purchases are 470,400 euro. Again, I want to know what my total purchases are so I can take away my credit purchases. But I don't have the figure. But I do know that my opening stock is 45, my closing stock is 50, and my cost of goods sold 595. So 45 plus purchases minus closing stock is equal to cost of sales. So for me to get my purchases, I will take my 595 and I will add my 50 and I will minus my closing stock 45, and that will give me 600,000. So 45 plus 600 minus 50 is 595. So always work down then again to make sure that you're right. So your total purchases are 600,000 minus your credit purchases of 490,400 is equal to 129,600 euro cash purchases. So that is your cash purchase. So a bit more work compared to your sales. Okay, so here's 2010. So if you guys want to try that yourself, I'll stop talking. Okay, so hopefully you got 268,000 cash purchases there. So that should say purchases, apologies. So 730 is your total purchases, okay, and minus your 462 credit purchases is 268 cash purchases. Okay, so that's all your working capital ratios. So again, remember it can be worth up to 12 marks out of your total 100, and they come up every single year. So it's really worth taking a look at them every couple of weeks to make sure you're constantly, on top of them, you know exactly how to do them, because they're very important.